Welcome to the exercise classroom, anatomical, biomechanical and practical exercise education. Today's lesson, reverse wrist curl. Introduction. The reverse wrist curl is an isolation exercise that targets the wrist extensor muscles through the joint action of wrist extension. This exercise is important for developing forearm strength, wrist stability, and muscular balance between the wrist flexor and extensor muscles. Strengthening the wrist extensors can improve grip support, wrist control, and performance during lifting, gripping, and pulling activities. Alternate names for this exercise include the reverse barbell wrist curl, reverse dumbbell wrist curl, and wrist extension exercise. Body contour benefits. The reverse wrist curl helps develop the muscles along the upper portion of the forearm by strengthening the wrist extensor muscles. Improved development of these muscles can enhance forearm definition and contribute to balanced muscular appearance between the upper and lower arms. Strengthening the wrist extensors may also improve wrist stability and forearm control during gripping activities. The movement. Joint action. The primary joint action in the reverse wrist curl is wrist extension, where the back of the hand moves upward toward the forearm. This movement strengthens the muscles responsible for extending and stabilizing the wrist. Functional benefits. Improved wrist extensor strength can enhance wrist stability, grip support, and exercise control during lifting, pulling, and carrying movements. Strong wrist extensors also help balance forearm muscular development and support wrist function during everyday activities. Exercise execution. Starting position. Sit on a bench while holding a dumbbell or barbell with an overhand grip. Rest the forearms on the thighs or a bench with the wrists positioned just beyond the knees or edge of the bench. Allow the wrists to flex downward while maintaining a secure grip on the weight. Movement. Extend the wrists upward by raising the back of the hands toward the forearms while keeping the forearms stable. Pause briefly at the top position with controlled movement. Ending position. Slowly lower the weight back to the starting position under control. Repeat the movement for the desired number of repetitions. Proper technique. Maintain stable forearm positioning and use controlled wrist movement throughout the exercise without using momentum or excessive arm movement. Range of motion. Lower the weight until a comfortable stretch is felt in the wrist extensor muscles, then extend the wrists upward through a controlled range of motion. Avoid forcing the wrists into excessive extension. Most common mistake. A common mistake during the reverse wrist curl is using excessive weight and swinging the movement instead of performing controlled wrist extension. This can reduce muscle activation and increase stress on the wrist joint and forearm tendons. Muscle mechanics. During the reverse wrist curl, the wrist extensor muscles contract concentrically to extend the wrists and raise the weight upward. During the lowering phase, the wrist extensors contract eccentrically to control wrist flexion and stabilize the movement. The forearm muscles also help maintain grip and wrist control throughout the exercise. Primary movers. The primary movers in the reverse wrist curl are the wrist extensor muscles of the forearm, including the extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. These muscles are responsible for extending and stabilizing the wrist during the exercise. The finger extensor muscles also assist by helping maintain grip and hand positioning throughout the movement. Other muscle roles. Antagonist. The wrist flexor muscles act as antagonists by opposing the wrist extension movement during the exercise. Synergist. The finger extensor muscles assist the wrist extensors by helping maintain hand and wrist positioning throughout the movement. Stabilizers. The forearm and hand muscles stabilize the wrists and grip to maintain controlled movement and exercise positioning. Biomechanical considerations. Wrist lever arm. The resistance arm changes throughout the movement, increasing muscular demand as the wrists extend upward against gravity. Forearm stabilization. Keeping the forearms stable against the thighs or bench helps isolate the wrist extensor muscles and reduce unwanted arm movement. Grip position. Maintaining a secure overhand grip helps improve wrist alignment and movement control during the exercise. Controlled eccentric phase. Slowly lowering the weight improves muscular control and helps maintain tension on the wrist extensor muscles throughout the movement. Training effectiveness and optimization. Controlled tempo. Performing the exercise with slow controlled movement improves wrist extensor activation and reduces momentum. Full range of motion. Using a comfortable full range of motion increases muscular involvement and improves flexibility of the wrist extensors. Appropriate resistance. Selecting a manageable weight helps maintain proper wrist movement and exercise control. Higher repetitions. Moderate to higher repetition ranges are often effective for improving forearm muscular endurance and wrist stability. Safety and injury prevention. Gradual progression. Increase resistance gradually to avoid excessive stress on the wrist joint and forearm tendons. Controlled movement. Avoid rapid or jerking repetitions that can place unnecessary strain on the wrists and connective tissues. Avoid excessive range. Do not force the wrists into excessive extension or flexion positions that may increase joint irritation. Monitor discomfort. Stop the exercise if sharp pain, numbness, or unusual wrist discomfort occurs during the movement. Variations and alternatives. Kettlebell wrist extension. The kettlebell variation changes resistance distribution due to the offset load, which can increase wrist stabilization demands and forearm control. Wrist extension with dumbbells. Using dumbbells allows independent wrist movement, which may help improve muscular balance and wrist control. Single arm wrist extension. Performing the exercise one arm at a time can improve unilateral forearm development, wrist stability, and movement focus. The reverse wrist curl is an effective exercise for strengthening the wrist extensor muscles, improving wrist stability, and supporting balanced forearm development. Understanding proper wrist movement, exercise technique, and muscular function can help improve forearm control while reducing unnecessary stress on the wrist joint and connective tissues.